Good morning, family. We are going into this series. We're going to wrap this thing up, facing forgiveness. I don't know what's going on with technology, but you know what? We are going to allow him to use us this morning. So, good morning, good morning, good morning. I am Dr. K. I'm ready to get this conversation going. And we are talking about facing forgiveness. This is part 3 to our series on facing forgiveness. And we're talking about family. So, part 2 and part 1 was just forgiveness. Like, how do I do it? What does it look like, in this season of my life? Part 2 was about me. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Thank you guys for being on. Technology has a way of acting up, but we are not going to allow it to defeat us. We're going to move forward. Our last series was on forgiving me, and this one is forgiving family. Now, family, let's talk about it. And before I jump right in, my thing was I said, let's go ahead and kind of recap. When we talked about, forgiving ourselves, we discussed the fact that it is hard to forgive ourselves because we dwell right here in our mind. We have those thoughts, those ideations, and we're constantly processing things, what it looks like and what it feels like to us. So that's why it's sometimes hard for us to let go of those things that we're tackling on our own. And sometimes they're real things, and sometimes they're just imagined because, again, it's in our mind. And we talked about the fact that guilt and shame play a major role in our ability and sometimes inability to forgive ourselves as fast or as quickly as we need to. But we are going to put those things in their proper perspective, and we're going to move forward because we also wrapped up with those 4 R's of responsibility, remorse, restoration. So we will take responsibility for what we've done. We will have remorse, but we won't sit in a space and place and just kind of dwell in it. And we will work to restore relationships. And then, that renewal piece. I know what I did. I know how it impacted others, and I won't allow that behavior to occur again. I won't do that thing again. Good morning, everyone. So this morning, I was preparing for this conversation, and it's been 2 weeks now, and I kept saying, good morning, good morning. I kept saying, Lord, which direction are you going to have me go in? And I didn't know, and I had been reading. I'm like, is there a scripture you want me to speak to? And of course, I listened to quite a few of my own digital or virtual mentors as they have discussed forgiveness. And I'm like, okay, Lord, give me my own spin, give me my own voice so that the people can hear you through me, so that you can use me the way that you want to use me. And in that process, he said, you know what? I do have the verse for you. I do have the scripture for you. So I was excited. I'm like, okay, yes, I'm ready. Here we go. I have people that are texting me saying, Trina, are you live? Yes, I'm live on YouTube. I'm live on YouTube, not on any other platform. So absolutely. So I said, okay, Lord, where is that scripture? And he gave me this scripture, and it's one that you all know, and it's Matthew 6, 9, and 13. And it is, our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be your name. Thy kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive those, as we have forgiven those who have forgiven. Well, forgive us our debts as we have also forgiven our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. And I was like, okay. So I'm reading it in the King James Version. I'm reading it in the New International Version. And I'm like, okay, Lord, tell me what you're talking about. Help me out here. I don't understand. What is it that you're asking me to say and or do? And he was like, you know what? Put a pin in that and just jump right into, why is it that when family hurts us, it looks different? It feels different. And I'm like, I don't understand. And so he said, sit down, be still. And I got quiet. And I said, well, when I think about a family member, this is a person who knows me at my core. This is a person who loves me, who is supposed to love me unconditionally. They know all of my pains, or more than the average person. And we are connected to them, not by choice. So I was like, okay, here we go. I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm like, so that means that I don't have a choice. It's the blood. They're blood connected. So I said, okay, then these are people who have a front row seat to everything that you are doing. They've gotten to see it. I was like, okay. He was like, then it was the emotional investment. I said, I got that. And he was like, you ever notice how it's easier for you to forgive a friend than it is for you to forgive a family member? And I was like, well, I never thought about it. And he was like, just think about it. And I said, okay, well, when I got ready to have this conversation, I realized that when we talk about family hurt, it's so different. And thinking about those four things right there, I was like, there are so many people who have situations in their family that they're hiding from, hurts that have occurred and people pretend that they didn't see them, hurts that occurred that were bold and out in public and people did see them, but then we act like we don't. And I was like, Lord, why did you not let me talk about that first? And he was like, because there are some people who are going to have to forgive themselves through this process. Because as I sit and I think, and I talk to a lot of people and a lot of people text me and reach out to me, there are so many people who have dealt with issues of molestation within the family. There are people who have been physically abused and hurt within their home, within their sanctuary, within the place that's supposed to be their consolation and their solace. And I'm like, Lord, that's so deep. And he said, there are so many people also who have been hurt and who have watched the hurt. They've watched others be hurt and they felt like they couldn't move on. And one of the young ladies that follows me, she said, Trina, I really feel like this series is for my entire family. Like, I want everybody to see it. And I was like, when I was thinking about that, and I can only think about myself and hurts that I've harbored and I've carried. Because in my book, I talked about how I didn't easily forgive my father and what that thing did to me. I carried it all of my life, and I still carry some facets of it, even though I have forgiven him and he's gone on to glory to be with God. But when I sit back and I reflect on what it did to my life and the relationships of my life, it's like, oh my goodness, I was so busy not forgiving other people, family members, close relatives, finding myself in situations where I could cut a person off for years. And I realized, I'm like, you can't get that time back. Like, Lord, all that time and all of that anger. And I'm like, but at its core, what is it? Why can't we let go? And, I was listening to Bishop Jakes a couple of weeks ago, and he said, forgiveness is a decision. It's not a thing. It's a choice. I'm sorry. It's a decision. We get to decide if we're going to. And I love that with everything about God in and of itself, because guess what? We get to choose. He gives us free reign and free will. So when we're holding on to all of these things, we're choosing to hold on to them. I can't fix the hurt that happened yesterday. I can't do anything about the hurt that happened 30 years ago. I can't even fix the hurt when my sister was bothered by somebody and I saw it happen and I didn't do anything. I do have the ability to ask for forgiveness. I do have the ability to forgive myself. I can take responsibility. I can learn from it, and I can have remorse, and I can have a renewing spirit and a renewing heart, but I don't have to sit in it. And when I thought about family, even though I said all of those things, like I saw Lynn said, it's the blood, that blood connection. We don't get to choose family, being connected to them. These are people who are supposed to love us unconditionally. So when a family member hurts us, it goes a little deeper. And sometimes I've heard people say, well, I forgive you, but I don't forget. And, I always wonder about that, because what it says is, I forgive you, but in the back of my mind, I'm expecting for you to come back and hurt me again. So I forgive you, and I'm gonna kind of lean over like this, and I'm gonna watch you. And I say, Lord, is that the way you forgive us? And he says, no, absolutely not. That's not how I forgive you. I forgive you and I wipe it clean. I wipe the debt out and I move on. So now that makes me go back to Matthew 6:12. Now, we said in Matthew 6:12, only Matthew 6:12, we said that and forgive us our debts as we have also forgiven our debtors. So this is when we ask God, how do we pray? This is the prescription for prayer. So in it, and I want us to reflect on it because I've been reflecting on this thing for quite some time. I am saying, Lord, forgive me for anything I have done in the same way that I have forgiven those who have transgressed against me. And now I have to sit there and I have to think and say, Lord, did I really forgive them? Did I really let it go? Or am I holding on to it? Am I still being judge, jury, and executioner? And I was like, ooh, that thing started to look different. And I was reading, and Leslie Fields said, she saw two-way forgiveness as a two-way release. And I know we often say forgiveness is for us, and it is for us. It is for us. Hear me clear. But I tend to agree with her when she says it's two-way. One, it is releasing the debt from the other person. So it's releasing their sins that they committed from us. It's releasing them of it and saying, you know what, I forgive you. It's gone. I let it go. And on the other side, that two-way side, it's releasing us as judge, jury, and correction officer. That was me. Over them, because that's not our role or position. And yes, family, it does hurt. That's why we have to process through the pain. We have to go through the journey. And this week I had an opportunity to hear a message on the God Zone, a movement that I'm a part of, a ministry I'm a part of. And it was Michael Todd. And he talked about, our weakness, winning in our weakness, and the fact that, for us in our own strength, it seems like it's undoable. Like, how do I let this go when this person has hurt me so bad? Well, in your own strength, you can't. You got to bring it to God and let it go. But remember, God knows everything that you have done, and he still forgives you even when you don't ask for forgiveness. So how, and this is Katrina process, how can I say that I am going to ask God to forgive me again when I'm holding on in my heart, when I'm saying, you know what, I forgive you, but I didn't forget because I'm waiting on you to come back and do that thing. I can't hold God's position. I am not judge, jury, and correction officer, parole officer. I'm none of those things for anybody. That is his role and his position. And we got to understand that as we're sitting and we're waiting, and sometimes we have these expectations, and that's why we got to check our expectation, because I know I live in the presidency of expecting greatness to happen. I don't live in a prison of expecting bad things to happen. I'm not looking for a person to come back and hurt me. I'm not holding them to who they were 5 years ago, because people can change. And in our flesh, we might say, well, I don't believe they can change. I don't think their heart is going to be no different. Well, you got to see them as God sees them, because God sees you in a different way than your mama sees you, than your sister, your friends, and everybody else. And that was very eye-opening for me when I had to process it, because some of us are waiting on people to come and lay out before us and say, oh, I'm so sorry for what I did to you. I was wrong. Everybody is not going to have that revelatory experience where they come and lay prostrate in front of you and ask for your forgiveness, because you and I are not God. We have to let go. We have to stop having these ideas in our mind of what forgiveness is going to look like. Stop waiting on them to come back. What we do is we're asking God to soften our hearts, to allow us to be able to move forward and past it. Allow us not to be held into a prison when a person walks into a room when we're getting ready for Thanksgiving, and it's like, oh God, I got to get over here and I'm going to have to see her because I'm holding on to what my aunt or my cousin or my sister, my brother said last Thanksgiving, and I'm walking into the house and I'm expecting them to say something crazy and reckless this year. We got to let it go. We can't live in that. We have to be able to say, Lord, you know what? I can't control anybody else, but I can control me. I can make the conscious effort and decision to say, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to let this go because it can't hold me prisoner. And I don't want to be held prisoner by somebody else's actions. I think T.D. Jakes said it best when he said, he used the analogy of a thermostat. I don't want to have my thermostat of life in somebody else's bedroom. and they get to control when I'm hot and when I'm cold. No, no, no. I want to have that thing in my own bedroom. I want to control that. I don't want to give anybody else to have that power. So I have to forgive. We have to release. And yes, family, it's hard. It's difficult when we're talking about family. But what we got to remember is that God is not finished with us yet. There is still a mighty work no matter where we are on our journey. He's still not done. He won't be done, as I heard on the other night. He won't be done until we have our last birthday. He won't be done until it's time for us to come home. Philippians 1:6 says, he has begun a good work in you, will be faithful to complete it. So if he started that great work in us, he's going to complete it. We got to give it all to him. We got to surrender it all to him, even forgiveness. Some of us have been holding on to stuff for 20, 30, 15, 10 years. The other person has moved on. They're going on. And in some cases, they haven't, because they're like, oh, my goodness, I got to see her, especially family. And some of us have just cut family off. We got people going through illness, sickness, situations where we could be praying for them and with them, and we're not, because we're sitting and we're harboring and holding on to these hurts and pains. It's not fair, family. We got to let it go. And we got to turn it over to God. We got to forgive and say, Lord, help me to carry this thing. I can't do it on my own. And he gets excited about that, because his power is made even more magnificent in our weakness. When we come to him and we confess, I can't do it by myself. I need you. I want to forgive my sister. I want to forgive my mother, my father, my brother, my husband, my wife. I want to forgive them. But there's something that's holding me back. I need your help. And another thing, yes, you got to truly let go and really let him do that work in you. Not, say, oh, well, I'm going to let go and I pray for them so that they could get themselves together. No. That's not the prayer. That is not the prayer. The prayer is praying for God's perfect will over their life and over your life, and understanding that God is a God of justice. He is going to take care of that. You may never see it. You may never see what justice looks like from God's perspective. And you shouldn't be looking to wait and see. They hurt me. Oh, ain't nothing that they ever do. This is one of our favorite. Nothing they do, it gonna prosper. It don't matter. And you're sitting waiting on them to fail. That's not what he's asking us to do, family. We got to let it go. We have to truly forgive and release. And it is a process. It's not a fast thing. It does take time, but we get to choose. We get to make a conscious decision to say, Lord, I'm going to turn this over to you. And when I feel those feelings of anxiety, of frustration, of hurt, when I feel it coming, I'm going to turn it over to you, and I'm going to go in my closet. I'm going to sit still. I'm going to step away. I'm going to smile, and I'm just going to pray right where I am so that I can be okay. I'm going to speak. I'm going to be the better person. We got to release them. And we got to release us. We got to return. We got to give that right of judgment and justice back to God. We don't own that right. That's not our role. That is not our position. We got to release that thing and let it go. We cannot also allow people to continue to hurt us. In this season of our life, I'm not saying forgive a person and go back and let them keep beating up on you or abusing you. I'm not saying that, because we are not going to be the victim. I'm saying forgive them, make a decision, and move so that God can do the work that he is supposed to do. Don't forgive and sit and every night you falling on your knees saying, God, do this to them and do that to them. No, that's not the prayer. Remember, when we are praying and we're asking God to forgive us and to bless us, it's only when we can release and forgive and bless other people. So if you got this wall up and you wondering like, dang, why my prayers going unanswered? I know God knows what I'm trying to do. Yeah, he knows what you're trying to do, but he also knows your heart. So do you truly have a heart of forgiveness? Have you really let that thing go? Have you forgiven them? And for me, my test for myself, my own little litmus test, is when I can truly pray for that other person, no matter what they did. And I can pray without having any expectation that God is going to hurt. And I can still serve them. I can wash some feet, for lack of better words. We also don't have to make a public service announcement when we forget somebody. So no, you don't. As we get into this holiday season, I'm not saying when you get around that aunt, that uncle, or whoever that person is that have hurt or wronged you. I'm not saying, okay, family, well, I just want y'all to know that I'm letting this go. I forgive all y'all for what y'all, not that. Not that. We're not making a public service announcement because we don't own that power, perceived or unperceived. You don't have to do that. You don't have that power. That power belongs to God. All you have to do is go before him and release it and let it go and allow his light to shine through you. Allow him to do a mighty work through you. You can't tell God how to do the work, and you sure can't control another person, but you can lay before him and you can let that thing go. Another thing is, family, we got to remain open to miracles, because miracles are shifts in consciousness. They happen every day. Miracles are happening. We might be believing for a thing tomorrow, and God said, I can do it like that, because he can do it just like that, and it'll happen. We have to let it go. We have to believe in our hearts. We have to be able to, the other night we were on our camp group, our women's Bible study, and we talked about, how we're favored, identifying those areas, seeing now that I've released it and I've forgiven you, what are those areas that I felt like I was binded in? And now sit back and think about them and see yourself being released. See yourself being saturated with God's overflow for you from letting that thing go, being able to love again. Open our hearts up to love, because unforgiveness is not love. And unforgiveness makes us feel like we are somebody we're not. We're not God. We're us. And he has made us in his image, but not for us to serve as judge, jury, and correction officer. We're not watching over them in that way. So guys, understand it's a process, but don't intentionally wallow in it. Don't stay. I remember when I was little and I was learning how to swim, and we would learn how to swim in 3 feet. Then they would transition us to 4 feet, 5 feet. Then they would take us to the 10-foot area where we could jump off into the water. It was levels. It was levels of growth in our faith, in our understanding, and this journey, it's levels of it. So don't wallow in the shallow end, just saying, well, I forgive, but it's going to take me some time. I want to hold. God is asking us to transition. He is in the 4 feet area saying, come on, I got you. Have faith. All you need is just a little faith. I got you. And I got them. I'm going to take care of it. Just a little bit by little bit. Let's just keep going. And I'll leave you with this, family, some self-reflection. C.S. Lewis says, to be Christian means to forgive the inexcusable, because God has forgiven the inexcusable in you. Now, if there's any one of us who has not had to be forgiven, then you sit on a different seat than the one that I sit in. But from this perspective, family, no matter what has been done, we are not judge, jury, executioner, correction officer, or any of those things. That's a role that God plays. Our role in this two-way release is for us to let go. It's for us to stop holding on. It's for us to say, you know what? I'm going to let this thing go. I'm going to release it. I forgive you. And you don't have to physically say it. You don't have to make a public service announcement. Let it go. Let it go. Release them from their debts and their sins. And release yourself from being judge, jury, and executioner so that we can move on. And you are correct, Avril. It's not easy. It's difficult because in our flesh, we want to, like, you hurt me. Like I want, and as much as a person hurts, we want them to understand like how much they hurt us. Like, you hurt me at my, especially family. Like, I want you to see what you did to me, because many of those hurts we do carry into our adult life. But oh my, his grace and mercy are sufficient. As I sit and I'm here as I get ready to wrap up, and I think about the mornings that were not good mornings for me during my growth period, during my life. And I think about the times when I cried myself to sleep because somebody hurt me. And I think about the times that I was angry and I hurt people because I was hurt on the inside, and how I don't want that cycle to continue. I want that vicious cycle to end. I was talking to my husband the other day. I said, you know what? We can't have that. We got to break those curses. We can't bring them in. We can't let our family see us, in unforgiveness. We have to be willing to let go. Even when we don't understand it, we have to thank him for the trial and the test. We got to thank him for the hurt because it serves a purpose. Nothing happens just because. And the forgiveness, it must happen in and through our lives. It has to happen. Every day he shows up with that fresh grace and mercy. And I know it's hard in my season of go through. I know it's difficult, but I know that God knows that I'm worth it. I know that, you know what, no matter what's going on, no matter how many times a person hurt me, I can forgive them because he says we got to forgive our brothers 7 times 70 a day, a metaphor, a day, because that means that he continues to forgive us even when we don't ask for it, because we deserve it. He knows it. He's like, we don't deserve it. He knows that we don't, but he still does it because he loves us. He forgives us. And it makes us better. It makes us move in a different spirit. I feel like in this season of my life, my peace is too important. Even those things I can't control every day. You know what? I forgive. Even when a person doesn't know they wronged me, I forgive them because sometimes it's up in here and we got to let it go. So, family, I pray that this session was good for you. I love each and every one of you. And I thank you for continuing to pray with and for me. If you haven't purchased your copy of my first book, Exposed, I ask that you go to www.freedombydesign1.com and get a copy of your book. I've had so many people purchase it for book clubs, for travel, for family, and I'm excited about that. I myself have all my little post-it notes in here because as much as it's my story, it also affords me an opportunity to go back and just kind of reflect and see some things from the perspective of the 35-year-old Katrina, the 16-year-old Katrina, just understanding where I was in those periods so that I don't repeat a lot of the mistakes that I have, made in the past, or so that I could go back and I can see a trial and a test and understand, you know what, now I understand why I had to go through that season because of where I am. So I love you, family. I look forward to seeing you back on Freedom by Design this upcoming week. I'm excited. We will be in Miami next week doing a drive up, come and greet and meet Dr. K. So that information will be shared on this Monday, but I love you. Family, take care of yourselves. Share this message with a family member or a friend, and let's see where God takes us as we continue our journey on forgiveness. Bye-bye.